I hope you've enjoyed your time off despite being locked in. I'm here today with Jelly, my dog, and we're going to start some of our e-lessons. Today we're going to look at how to do the linear regression on your calculator. And we're going to go back to that first scatter plot example that looks at some Bulls players and compares the shots attempted or field goals attempted versus points scored. So if you'll get that ready and get your calculator ready, we'll get started in just a minute. And Jelly wants to say hi one more time. Oh, look at the puppy. Have a good. So now let's go ahead and take you through the calculator part for linear regression. We're going to start using that Chicago Bulls example, and we're going to make a scatter plot and then do the linear regression itself. Feel free to press pause at any point in time if I move a little faster than you do so that you can keep up. You can also rewind if you like. So the first thing I need to do is enter the data. And I've opened two windows so that you can see the data on the right and the calculator on the left. I'm going to enter the data in my lists. So you go into list and then, you go into stat and then press edit. Now you can see I've already got data in there. The easiest way to clear that data out is to arrow up to the top of L1 and then press clear, enter, and it's all gone now. So now we can enter the data for this example, starting with the explanatory variable or the independent variable, or another way to think of it is our X variable, and that's our shots taken. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in. You should do the same thing on your calculator. So I've got the field goal attempts or the shots put in, and now I'm going to go to L2. I don't have anything in L2 right now, so I don't have to worry about clearing it out. But if you do, go ahead. Remember, it's arrow up, clear, enter. And now I'm going to type in the points. 24. You probably can do this faster on your own calculator than I can do it on my computer calculator. So once you have your data in, before you leave this screen, there's something really important to check. And what you want to make sure is there's the same number of values in L1 as there are in L2. If there are not, it's going to mess everything up. Okay, so we're done looking at the data itself. I can go ahead and go full screen, and you can see down here, it shows you the keys that I've actually pressed. Now, all of that was just entering data, so I'm going to go ahead and clear that out so that we are starting fresh. And we're going to make a scatter plot on our calculator. So our first step is to get out of this screen. And then I'm going to go into y equals, and I'm just going to check that I don't have anything typed into any of my functions, which I don't, but if I did, I'd want to clear them out. And then I'm going to go to stat plot. See how that's right above y equals? Well, to get that stat plot, we press second and then y equals, and that brings us our stat plot menu. So I'm going to notice right now all three of my plots are off, so is 4. I'm going to turn plot 1 on. And how I do that is by selecting plot 1, and then see how my cursor is flashing over on, pressing enter. Okay. This first choice that looks like a bunch of silly dots is our scatter plot. And then our X list is where we put in the X variable for our regression, and that was in L1. If your calculator doesn't say L1 or you put it somewhere else, you can use the second key and then 1 to get L1, but maybe you put it in L3. You would do second 3 to give you L3. Mine is set up the way that my calculator is, and then the Y list is an L2, so go ahead and put that there. Mark is up to you. I'm going to switch mine to the little box just to show you that all you do is highlight it and press enter. Color blue is fine with me. If your calculator's a little older, that won't be a choice for you. Now, the one nice thing about the statistical features, or one of the nice things about the statistical features on the calculator, is that you can not worry so much about setting your window. The calculator will do a fairly nice job for you. So if I press zoom, notice how choice 9 says zoom stat. What that will do is put together a window that the calculator thinks is appropriate. Now, once the data is shown in the scatter plot, if you don't like the window, you can always change it by going into the window, but this looks okay to me. So our next step we'd like to do is run the regression. But before we run the regression, we need to make sure that we have our diagnostics turned on. Diagnostics need to be on, or when you run the regression, you won't get your R, correlation coefficient, or R squared, coefficient of determination. And we're going to ask you about the correlation coefficient, so you need to make sure that diagnostics are on. Now, the only place you can do that is in the catalog. So see how this says catalog? We're going to hit second and then catalog, and it brings up our catalog. Now, we could arrow down until we found diagnostics on. But as you might imagine, that's quite a ways away. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the alpha key and have it jump to the D's. So if I press the alpha key and then notice how at x to the -1, there's a D there. I'm not sure why that didn't work. Let's try it one more time. Alpha D. Maybe I waited too long between pressing them. I'm not sure, but you can see it should work. And now I'll arrow down to diagnostics on. Select it, press enter, and all it says is done, and you're good to go. Now, once you've done this once, you shouldn't have to do it over and over again. This is just a one-time thing. So now to actually get the regression equation, that's going to be in your stat menu. It's going to be a calculation. And do you see how choice 4 says lin reg, open parentheses, ax plus b, close parentheses. So that stands for linear regression, and they're going to put the equation so that it says ax plus b. So we're going to press enter. Now, X list should be L1, Y list should be L2. It's wherever you put your X data and your Y data in. You want frequency list blank. Now, the store regression equation, you don't have to put anything here, but it's kind of cool that the calculator will put the equation in Y1 and then graph the calculator if you tell it to do it. But it's a little tricky how to get there. So if you go to your vars key, that stands for variables, and then see how on the top to the right one it says Y variables. We want a function, and I'm just going to have it typed into Y1. So I'm going to press enter there. Now arrow down to calculate and press enter. That gives us our regression equation. The first thing it does is shows you the format, and then it tells you what to substitute in for A and for B. It tells you R squared, which is the coefficient of determination, which we don't use very much, but it also tells you R, which is our correlation coefficient, which is a mathematical measure of how strong the linear relationship between the two variables is. So that's kind of handy. Now, just to show you what happened, if I look in Y now, that regression equation has been typed in without much rounding. And then if I press graph, that line is superimposed over the graph. So that's kind of a handy feature. You can also then use the calculate functions for the line when you're trying to evaluate different values, or you can use the table function. I just wanted to show you a few things. I know I typed out a guide, but maybe with the guide and the video, it'll make it a little bit easier. Hope this works well for you.